Welcome back to our podcast, Let's Talk About Labor. This podcast aims to help farmers and ag businesses connect to other ag businesses in Tennessee and other surrounding states, specifically to hear and learn about their experiences and challenges related to labor and the strategies they have used to overcome these challenges. We talk about various topics such as U.S. temporary foreign visa programs, mechanization and automation, and worker recruitment and retention strategies, among other topics. Different agencies and organizations have partnered with us to make this podcast possible, including the Southern Risk Management Education Center, GAP Connections, the U.S. Department of Agriculture SCRI program, and the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development. This podcast will not be possible without the participation of farmers and ag businesses here in Tennessee. My name is Margarita Belandia, and I'm a professor in the Department of Agricultural and Resource Economics at the University of Tennessee. Amy?
My name is Amy Fulcher, and I'm a professor in the Department of Plant Sciences at the University of Tennessee.
Alicia?
My name is Alicia Reen, and I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Agricultural and Resource Economics at the University of Tennessee.
All right, so we would like to introduce our guest for today's episode. Terry Hines, owner of Hale and Hines Nursery in McMinnville, Tennessee. Welcome, Terry, and thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Great. All right, Amy, we can go ahead and start.
Terry, would you tell us a little bit about your nursery, including the number of years you've been in business, the number of employees you have, the type of employees that you have at your nursery, and including whether they are domestic, H-2A, migrant workers, the crops you raise, and the market outlets you use to sell your products?
Sure. So Hale and Hines Nursery, the company that I own and some of my family owns part of, also started in 1978 growing field crops. We started growing shade trees and ornamental trees in spring of 1978. So we've been doing this about 46 years now. So it's been a good business. We've been very blessed and fortunate in the people we've had work for us and the people that have bought our products. So we're very thankful for how those years have gone. We initially we were all field grown stock, and we grew from about 3 employees to today we're roughly 100 employees. And we grew on 10 acres to begin with. Now we grow on about 850 to 900 acres in 2 locations. Everything is contiguous. We have the original farm, which is all field production, a lot of evergreens, a lot of conifers, some shade trees. And then in 2003, we started doing container production. And our market, our customer base was more re-wholesalers, some large garden centers. It still is this, some municipalities, some large landscapers. We're not in like the big box store business, so we don't do smaller products. Practically most of the product that leaves here is either a 15-gallon, a 30-gallon, or a 45-gallon, those 3 sizes primarily. And we started that production in 2003. It has grown to be about 80% of our sales now. So our split is about 80% containers, about 20% balled and burlap material, which comes, of course, out of the field growing operation. We grow about 450 plus varieties of trees, different names, maybe not different varieties, but we'll grow 15 or 20 ginkgos, 20 redbuds, 20 dogwoods, 20 maples. There's big numbers of certain varieties of trees, but we grow across the board. Because we're in such a good climate here in Middle Tennessee, we can grow a lot of products that go north and that go south and west. So we ship material to about 30 plus states in the U.S. as well as Canada. And we ship pretty much year round with the container material. We ship as far west as Denver, Colorado. We ship to Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma in the southeast, Alabama, Georgia in the south, a little bit to Florida, Eastern Seaboard, the Carolinas, and then up from DC up the Eastern Seaboard into New England, as well as Michigan, Illinois, Iowa, Ohio, Indiana above us. And so it's since we're located where we are in the Southeast, it's we're a decent, not too far to ship. The farthest we ship, like I said, is Denver, and then Toronto area in Canada. We have several good customers up there. So our product mix goes both directions. Not everything goes both directions, but a lot of our product can go all directions. So we started on labor. We started using H-2A contract labor probably actually more than 20 years ago. So I'm trying to think what year. We probably started that in about 2000 or before. And so probably half of the time we've been in business or more, we've used contract labor. H-2A is the program we use in agriculture. It's a little, on the front end, you have to have housing. You have to, get your housing approved by the state Department of Labor, and then you're dealing with the U.S. Department of Labor. So we use a contractor to help us in the procurement of those. It works good. It's a little bit expensive. You transport them back and forth, but we have repeat employees that come on that program every year. And as we need to, we add contracts. So where last year we had 60 contracts, this year we're going to have roughly 70 contracts. And, we've been growing. So, from doing balled and burlap material, and the last probably 10 to 15 years since we got into container production, we have continued to expand that. And we have about 500 plus acres in container production. Primarily, we do pot and pot production, which is 15s, 30s, and 45s. That's the product that we ship to our customers. We also are vertically integrated more now than we used to be. We have a large section where we grow 3 and 5 gallon material. Most of that gets shifted up to the 15s and from there up. Some of it we do sell in 3s and 5s and 7s. And we also have added a propagation department. So we propagate from seed, from grafts, from cuttings, all except tissue culture is about the only way we don't actually propagate from TC. But we have, good crews that are over the propagation part. We do our grafts in the winter. We do our seeds. We do our cuttings. And so there's a crew that does that with leadership, and then a crew that does 3 gallon. We have a dedicated shipping manager and crew, a dedicated shifting production crew, and then, other people that dedicated to trimming and staking. And we try to get a consistent product across the board. Trying to think, did that answer all your questions?
Yes, Terry. I just have a little follow-up question on that. So you said you have H-2A workers. What percentage more or less you have between H-2A and local labor? I'm assuming you have a mix.
Yes, it's
What would you say it's that mix?
about 60-40 or 70-30.
Mhm.
But the local labor, we probably 90% of our employees, whether they're H-2A or local, are Hispanic. And all of our key foremans are Hispanic. And of course, a lot of families like to work together. And so we have, extended families that are in one areas and other extended families in another. And usually when we're adding about 12 contracts this year, we'll let the heads of those crews, you give us names of other family members that want to come, or could be in-laws, could be just, cousins, friends that are needing employment. And so it kind of keeps those groups together.
Excellent, Terry. Alicia, let's continue, switch a little bit gears with the rest of the questions we want Terry to illuminate us with.
So, all right, so let's talk about labor challenges you have faced over time. For example, challenges related to labor availability, worker retention, and worker recruitment.
Okay. Well, before we worked, even before we did H-2A, we started using some Hispanic labor probably about 30 years ago. And before we had the migrant workers, either, which it wasn't H-2A at that time, it was just whoever came in and applied. We had a lot of difficulty keeping employees that were consistent to show up, because we're 6 days a week. Typically, we work 6 days a week. We're farmers, so we don't pay overtime. We do pay a good wage. When we do H-2A, of course, your viewers probably know you have what's called the adverse wage for that area. So, the minimum is much higher than minimum labor. Of course, with that, anytime they adjust that up, it's expensive to us, but we don't just adjust the starting workers or the guys that are in on the bottom rung. We adjust everybody above them to that. But we would, anybody that would come in the door, we would hire any able-bodied persons. And we always had a problem keeping enough crew. Now then we were keeping, 8 or 10 people. So it's not like, we would have never seen the growth we see now without the migrant labor that's came and helped us. And H-2A it's troublesome. I mean, there's things you have to do to get into it, but we like it. It's worth the difficulty of providing housing. We have 3 or 4 houses, and we have 2 different barracks that we use for our H-2A workers, and that's worked out good. One of the challenges, I guess, and this is with H-2A too, is, and I would suggest, I may be getting ahead of myself on my notes here, but we have one barracks that's like a 28-person barracks, and that's too many. If I was doing it again, I would keep all of the barracks to about 12 people maximum, just because they tend to be with their families. And when you start putting 3 or 4 families together, it's just easier when they're with each other. There's less personnel issues, and who cleans up the house and who does this and that, because we're kind of hands off, but we want it to be kept clean, and we want the guys to turn the lights out at 10 o'clock and different things like that. It's smaller is better as far as the housing requirements for H-2A. But we have a lot of our people are just they're just here. They have their green cards. So a lot of those people are U.S. citizens also now, and a lot of those people, their families work for us. Sometimes their wives, their children, many times work for us. And some of the larger families, we have one family that has like 17 brothers, and I think all those brothers except for one works for us, and most of their kids and nephews and daddies and in-laws, and it's a big crew. But anyway, we're fortunate to have really wonderful workers, and we wouldn't be able to do what we do without them.
All right, great information. What about some of the other strategies you have used to overcome the labor challenges? Could you list those strategies one by one and explain them to us in detail?
I guess the biggest strategies in this, let me see where I'm at here. Retaining, we talk about retention. I think that's a big thing, that you have to treat your employees, like you would want to be treated. Understanding when it's going to be 95 degrees out, hey, we'll start a couple hours early in the morning. We won't take a lunch break. We'll take a couple 30-minute breaks that we'll pay you for through the day, where you can, cool down. We do pay, I think, really well. I guess the evidence I have of that is we never lose somebody we want to keep. We've had hundreds of employees through the years, and they've been very loyal to come year after year for us. And so now and then you'll have a problem employee that just conflicts with somebody else, and if it's an H-2A worker, we try to look at that situation, and maybe there's substance abuse, things like that go on, and we just have to not renew the contract for that person, as much as we hate it. But sometimes we won't renew a contract. And I think as far as strategies, just having really well trained, and my son James is over all the production in containers, and does a wonderful job at training lead men, like the people that do our inventory, the people that do our tagging, he works with the production guys, with the crews that are spraying, and he is really good at bringing up people into positions and letting them do that job. And our guys are, we try to give them all the right tools, and I think we'll get into that maybe in another podcast, but we try to make it as easy as the job can be, but you still need really good leadership, no matter what it is. And so, we do a substantial bonus at the year end for our employees. We allow them, the H2A workers, even to take 2 or 3 weeks in the summer to go home and come back. A lot of nurseries don't do that. We just do it because if we were here for 10 months is about what the contract runs, that we can understand that it would be nice to take a break and go home and see your family. So we allow that. And then we do make them, stay to a certain point in their contract, maybe not the very last day, but the contract goes to the middle of December, starts in the middle of February. But a lot of the guys will say, if you stay to the end of November, by the end of Thanksgiving, you can go back, because December and January are our slowest months. And so, beginning of February, it starts to really get busy. And then our guys come mid-February, and we start substantial. We bring two different contracts. We bring one the middle of February, one the middle of March, because by the middle of March, we're doing, every job is being done by that time. So
This is great, Terry. I'm gonna break the ice with you for 2 seconds. So how's your Spanish? You've been employing these H2A workers and Hispanic workers over time.
I
How is
can
the
get
communication?
I can give orders. I can give orders in Spanish. I can say, go do this, bring me this, go do that. I'm not conversational, but I
But
will
you,
say
Mhm.
all of our key people speak better English than I speak Spanish, and so it's not a barrier. They're a whole lot smarter than I am, and I have some people that have been here for 20 years that speak no English.
Mhm.
And now and again, I do have to get one of the foremans to interpret. My son James and John both work with me, and they both speak much better Spanish than me. I tried speed Spanish, and it just went straight through, and I didn't lodge much. I could say SOCKS, things like that, but that's what it is. But yeah, I use kind of Spanglish is my go-to language, and
Well,
you know,
that's good enough, Terry.
yeah. But we have wonderful, a lot of the guys, even that have been here a long time, older guys especially, that I think they understand even English a lot better than I understand their Spanish back. So we very seldom that's very seldom an issue for us. So
Excellent, Terry. So
mhm.
we're almost at the end of our episode, and I want to ask you a last question. So people learn from their successes, but also learn from their mistakes. Or that's, I guess, in my case, that's how I have learned
Mhm.
the real lessons. So can you share with us an experience of success or failure that you have experienced while trying to address your labor challenges in your operation, and that you think will be useful for other nursery operations to hear?
Sure. Well, the biggest thing is finding people that are well suited to a job. We do a lot of our own construction, a lot of our own fabrication. We do all of our own mechanic work. So finding those people that are good lead people and that can take responsibility. Some people just don't want responsibility. They just want to be pointed at the job, and that's what they want to do. They don't really want to make decisions. So finding those decision makers and people that are capable. For instance, our tagging crews and our inventory people, there's about 3 men that do that full time. And, knowing when a tree's ready for sale, when it's the right size, when it's the right quality, that's really important. And, that takes a lot of time just doing the job. So things that my son used to do completely and I used to do completely, then as we've grown, we've had to have other people do those things. So getting those people in the right positions, I think is really key. We have a fabrication shop, which the gentleman that works in there has worked for me years and years, and he's just excellent at building stuff. He just needs guidance on, here's what I want, here's a picture of it, here's the measurements, and he can build it. Same thing we have 2 full-time mechanics, and they keep our stuff maintained. They keep the repairs done. They keep things rolling. We have, a large crew that does nothing but shift material. They shift from cuttings all the way up to 45 gallons. Sometimes we grow hundreds, so they can do any of those sizes. And like I said, if you give them the right tools, they'll do it really efficiently. And so one thing I think I have done wrong, and I mentioned this before, is on the housing. If you're going to house workers, I think that 12 is about as many as you need to put all in one location. And we've had, I won't say every employee that's ever worked here has just loved it, but we've been very fortunate that most people that work here that we consider a valued asset have stayed. And there again, it's treat others how you want to be treated. And as we've been able to do more business through the years and show more profit, we've been able to reward them for their hard work and their efforts, because these guys, like the shipping crew, we were so busy this fall that many days they were out there working in the rain, which we can let the production crews go home, but if we got trucks backed up and they need to be loaded out the door, those guys are just willing to put on a slicker or a raincoat and go ahead and get the trucks loaded. So we've have very dedicated people that do a great job.
Terry, this is very useful information, practical tips for those thinking about how to retain, strategies to retain those workers and make sure that they're coming back year after year, Terry.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to thank you for taking again the time to talk with us, and I guess I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you,
Okay.
Terry.
See you then.